Hey guys, it is Alex.da.bibliophile. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to do my June wrap up. Let's get into it. All right, so before you say anything, yes, I do have on the same clothes I had on in the last video because today we are batch recording. Okay, we are laying out content for a few days and I don't feel like changing my shirt. So today we are talking about what I read in June, and I'll be honest. June, as far as reading, started out a little slow for me. I think I was still recovering from BRBF because that second day in June, we had a whole cookout to attend and we had a good time. So I was trying to still recover. But I did pick up a few books for the month of June. And so we're just going to talk about what I read, how I liked what I read, and then what I recommended to other people to read. So, as we all know, June is Pride Month. And so, even though I am a mood reader, I decided to be intentional with what I read. I read things from Pride all year long. So, let's not get that twisted. However, I wanted to make sure that I dived into two books that have been on my TBR. They both were released this year, one more recent than the other. And I knew that I wanted to read those books for Pride Month. And I knew that I wanted to highlight those books as far as my content was concerned so that more people could really pick those up. We always talk about how there aren't a whole lot of men in the romance space, but there are. There are men who are writing romance, and these two individuals just so happen to be writing romance. And so I was really, really looking forward to that. So the first book that I picked up was Last First Kiss by Julian Winters. And then the other book is Love is a Contact Sport by Frederick Smith. Again, both of these books are romance, and they actually had a lot of things in common. One is more of a rom-com. So Last First Kiss was a little bit more of a rom-com. It is the second book in like the series for him. I read the first one. And so this was the second one. And we just kind of picked back up with some of the characters that we met in the first book. And oh yeah, let me not forget, this one is interracial. So Last First Kiss by Julian Winters is an interracial love story, but it was really good. And I don't really mind. I prioritize Black authors, Black characters. However, he still fits that mold. He is a Black author. And so I don't have a problem with reading interracial romance. And in this book, it's really done well. Like I said, it is romance. It is two individuals who were friends and then they become lovers. It is a awakening for one of the characters. Like, he wasn't quite sure who he was. He knew he had like these feelings and these thoughts, but wasn't quite sure to commit to that. And even in the book, we see how like he grows and he doesn't necessarily commit to one thing. And that's why I think I really like that book, because although we put labels on ourselves, although we put labels, she, her, them, they, although we say, you know, straight or bi or what have you, at the end of the day, it's whatever you want and what you identify as. And so it was beautiful to see how he can go through the book just kind of really figuring out what he wants for himself in life, and then understanding that he knows what he wants in life, and though he's not necessarily ready to put a title on what that looks like or a label on what that looks like. Again, this one was funny. It had a very rom-com feel to it, like it could really be on TV as a movie. The main character is in the wedding entertainment business, and he is planning a wedding for a friend of a friend, and then that's kind of where that friends and lovers kind of interacts. I don't want to tell too much because I hate spoiling books for people, but just know it is a good time. Of course, you have a little bit of miscommunication there, really more avoidance in that book. But it is a good time. So if you're into that, pick that one up. And then that second one was Love is a Contact Sport by Frederick Smith. And this one was good too. It is the second one set in that same like setting. I believe he said it's not necessarily a series because you can read this as a standalone and you won't be like confused as what's going on. He kind of fills in the blanks. However, I will say read book one because book one was really good. And so read book one. Book one was one and done. I have it on my shelf. I was about to grab it. I might grab it before the end of this. So book one was one and done by Frederick Smith. And then book two is Love is a Contact Sport. Again, it is not a series. It can be read as a standalone. However, I think you should read the first one and then read the second one so that you can just kind of follow along in the world. It just makes it make more sense. And we get to see some of the characters from the first book appear in the second book. So with this one, it also is a friends to lovers. The two met when they were in college and many, many years later, they reconnect. I also like this book because it is a mature romance. So these individuals have moved way far past college days. They are in their careers. They have had their ups and downs in the dating world. One of them had a whole family, like he was married, kids, and, you know, has gotten a divorce. And so you see that maturity in dating. And you also get to see one of the characters. He doesn't really have his dating life all together. So it was really entertaining to see that dynamic and just seeing it when people are older and understanding that even when you get older, you don't always have your life together. This book also had like that awakening in a sense of one of the characters not necessarily knowing what he wants, and then in the end he definitely know what he wants and he goes after what he wants. And what I also loved about this book is the community. Like they show how these individuals are surrounded by a community that looks like them and they feel seen and then they're empowered by that. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I'll also say for this book, I enjoyed that Frederick also has like a lot of pop culture references throughout the book. He always does that though. Like the first book, he had a lot of pop culture references, especially to Beyonce. But in this one, he has a lot of pop culture references. And he also highlights and shout outs authors. One of the main characters in the book is a author. So he talks about his like day-to-day life as an author and what that looks like and the stuff that people don't necessarily see from the authors. So like when they're going to events and how much that costs them and what that looks like for them, and traveling and trying to be a full-time author, trying to make sure that you're pleasing your publishers and all of that with what you're writing. Like that is a full-time job. And so he kind of talks about that. Also the financial struggles that come along with being an author. But anyway, like I said, I'm not going to dig too deep into it because I don't want to spoil it. But what I also like that he did in this book was shout out other authors. So there's like this scene in the book where these two individuals are together and one is gifted a book. And they're like standing in his room and you see all these other books on the shelves and he is shouting out people like Beverly Jenkins. He shouts out Lauren Lacey. There are so many greats that he shouts out in this book, and I just thought that was really cool for him to give them like this little salute of like, I really enjoy your work. And I also love Beverly Jenkins. We've talked about that before. So I love when I'm reading a story and I find little tidbits like that I'm like, oh my God, me too. Or, okay, this author is really relatable and the characters are relatable. So those were the two MM romances that I read for the month of June. And then I decided to do an audiobook because June is Audiobook Awareness Month. I do audiobooks 99.9% of the time anyway. So this month I did Fast by Millie Belizaire. And you guys kind of did my reaction video before where I did like the first few chapters of me reading and how I felt about the book. Overall, I still give the book a 5-star rating. It was really good. The audiobook, the audiobook was masterfully done. I mentioned before that those narrators of the book, I had never listened to them before. Will I listen to them again? Absolutely. They did a really good job of just bringing the characters to life in this book. And although it was a hard listen because the character in the beginning is a 8-year-old telling the story of kind of what happens to her. And so it was hard to listen to in the beginning. But of course, as the book goes on, the character matures. We then see her at different time points in her life, as well as the other characters that are surrounding her. And so, hands down, it was a really good book. Was it gut-wrenching at times? Was it uncomfortable at times? Was it difficult to listen to at times? Yes. But it made for a good, real, raw book. Like a book that I would recommend to other people. I will definitely tell them to check the triggers. Because for some people, there may be a lot of triggers. But it was a really good audiobook. So I'm glad to have listened to that for Audiobook Appreciation Month. And then that's really it for the month. I couldn't really get into anything else. And then I just had a lot of other stuff going on. Also trying to do this 30-day Black BookTube is Reading Challenge. So I was doing more content and editing than I was reading. So I think that's one thing I definitely want to get back into for July. I want to start reading again more. Whether that's my audiobooks while I edit or even picking my Kindle back up. I haven't picked up a Kindle in a long time, to be honest. So I think for July, that is also one of my goals, to pick up the Kindle and then just read more in July. I currently don't have a TBR for July. But now that I'm sitting in the book room, I think I'm going to make a TBR for July. That way I can hold myself accountable. But it's so hard when you're a mood reader because I can pick up a book that I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely want to read that. And then as soon as I start reading it, I'm like, it's just not doing something for me. So what we're going to do maybe is a July hopeful list. And hopefully I get to them. And if I don't, that's fine too. I'll hopefully get to them at some point in time. But that's all I got for right now. That was my June wrap up. As far as those 3 books, would I recommend? Yes, yes, and yes. I recommend all 3 of those books for various reasons that I already kind of talked about. So make sure you pick up those books. And until next time, guys, happy reading.